So I'm sitting here with Dr. John Anderson, and we are just discussing our favorite topics and different notions within the classics. So, Dr. Anderson, what intrigues you most about the use of stones, earth, and water within the classical texts?
Well, one of the things that's always intrigued me about the the breadth of work that we can do is that there's a lot of materia that kind of goes under the radar. There's a lot of lore that gets swept under the rug, right? In service to modernization and in sort of the move to make everything completely clinically relevant every single time, every day, all day. And there's a lot of culture that gets lost from that. A lot of old culture, a lot of old custom that gets lost from that, which is still, I think useful in to some extent now. And I think stones are definitely one of those things get swept under. Um, Earths or soils, certainly we don't talk about that. Types of water. All of these things are certainly within the purview of our medicine and can be used to help change the chi within a formula. Everything that you see that you read about with the benzogumu, shenang bensal, right? All of that is based on the exchange of chi between ingredients within a formula, and sometimes how you treat those ingredients affects what happens in the formula. Treating gansao with honey makes it zhegansao, so it sweetens it, kind of makes it a little bit more nourishing. So how you treat your materia um, will have an impact, a direct impact on what you're going to get out of it. And so there are some ideas, old ideas, that are cosmologically based around things like direction, right? About when do you gather this plant from this side of the mountain, or what time of the year do you gather mugwort, right? We just passed the double 5 day in the Taoist calendar where you would gather mugwort at noon, right? So that it has the utmost yang gathered at a given time. And so with things like stones and soils and waters, there is this really a very direct connection to the earth itself too, right? It's not just okay, you'll chop that thing up and then do that thing. It's literally could be the soil or the stones themselves. um and I part of that is all of that. I want to get that idea of signature down and this, but I also want to shift how some of these things are viewed for our own purposes too. It's very easy to find some um, popular texts, um, or some popular ideas that change the way that the materia might be used. For example, right, you might have a certain kind of stone that if you read a certain text or book, it's used to um, I don't know, help one remain calm and keep away bad luck. Okay, this is vague, and this is kind of vague, and this is tricky when we're talking about certainly family styles, right? Or like my grandmother taught me this, and this is how we do things. Okay, that's good. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Um, but there are discussions that are like this that are classically based that I can say, here's the reference in the text, and it's not just me saying this comes from my line and it's just the way we learned it. Again, it's not invalid to say that. I love that we have the ability to do that, but I also want to give students this space where I can go see the text right there, that line right there that says that's a thing you can do, and then also what you can extrapolate from that, because there are some things where it says the thing but it doesn't say it directly, but then right around it it mentions all this other stuff that leads to, but you can do this thing, it just doesn't say it, right? So um how do you deal with moon phases, right? I now have a method, like I've in part of my research, I've got a method for doing that now, right? How do you deal with, what side of the tree to gather this and that on? What does it do when you do that? Right. So I want to be able to bring all of that old correspondence in, but I want to be able to give you uh, a page that goes with it and says, I'm not the one saying this. This is what so and so said. Right. So that if you see it and you want to try it, you can try it, but it's not just me, you know, I like this idea, so I'm going to tell you about it. It's me. I'm just cycling it down from the past, right? So that's really what I like to do with a lot of this stuff.
Sorry, I was on mute. So, what first inspired you to really start looking at these more natural? I mean, herbs are natural, but like the stones and the water and the earths in reflection of the classics. So, what led you and inspired you into that path?
I think I've always kind of had an affinity for getting my hands dirty. Like I I use a manual wheelchair every day, all day. My hands are gonna get dirty. I can't avoid it. I can't avoid it. There's nothing I can do about it. And if I'm gonna do something to change the space in an area, you know, I've got to go digging in the dirt, right? I've got to go looking and seeing and smelling and sensing what's there. I don't necessarily have to eat it, but I can, it's good to put your nose in it and say, okay, I'm smelling, if there's petroleum in the soil and you can smell it, that means something very different from, oh, that smells a bit like cow manure, right? That's a very different thing. So, but you might not know that until you get a handful and actually smell the stuff. Or, if you're inspecting it and there's little creepy crawlies, oh, okay, maybe there's something that's going on there. So you can look at what the book says, yeah, but you've got to go and get around in it. And even if it's difficult for me to do, you know, you go into the woods, you go see what's there. And you try your best to communicate whatever that is. I don't have good English. I don't have good words for that. You try your best to get around what's happening in that area, um, because all of that really does affect the kind of medicine that you're going to make. It affects how you're going to cultivate yourself as a practitioner, as a person, away from your practice. Uh, it really affects how you treat others, right? If you have a sense that that tree right there can speak to me, you know, you kind of don't have an excuse to treat the human being that's right next to you like an inanimate object either. Like there is a depth that goes with that that you only get when you kind of expand that idea of personhood a little bit. So I think it's just a stance that I've had since I was young. That's a long answer to a short question, I guess.